What if the love story the world clung to wasn't really a love story at all? What if it wasn't fate or timing or destiny colliding at the perfect moment? What if it was something colder, something deliberate? That thought didn't arrive gently in Harry's mind. It crept in late at night when the palace corridors were silent and doubt had room to breathe.
Beaming in the background, I am 100% certain, in my honest opinion, that they had planned this all from the start to hook a prince and make everything possible. Be asking this very question: is she on their payroll? Because she was their ambassador as such. She was always pictured there pre-Harry.
We can all see them. Why isn't anybody questioning this? Karina Shuliak was Jeffrey Epstein's last known girlfriend.
What if the royal love story the world adored wasn't a romance at all, but a recruitment? What if Harry didn't fall in love, he fell into a plan? And what if the people who warned him were the ones he pushed away? At first, Harry told himself he was being paranoid. Royal life did that to you. Everyone watched, everyone speculated, everyone twisted shadows into monsters. But paranoia doesn't tighten your chest like that.
She is on record saying that the only times she flew on a plane, went on a yacht, or whatever was with her boyfriend, Jeffrey Epstein.
Paranoia doesn't make your stomach sink without warning. This felt different. This felt like recognition. It always begins with something small, something stupid, something you tell yourself doesn't matter. For Harry, it was a photo, a yacht, sunlight, laughter frozen in pixels, the kind of image the internet devours and refuses to let die. It always starts with something small.
And here we have Meghan Markle parading on a yacht since 2014, at the very least that these pictures emerged there.
Can you just tell them the truth? Can you say to the world?
Something stupid, something you should be able to ignore. For Harry, that something was a random yacht photo floating around online, one he had pretended not to see for weeks. Meghan insisted it was old, irrelevant, not even worth addressing. But the internet wouldn't shut up, and Harry couldn't forget the way Meghan's jaw clenched every time the picture popped up on his feed. He tried to ignore it, tried to trust, tried to believe that love meant letting go of suspicion. But the jaw clench stayed with him. So did the silence that followed every mention of it. Silence can scream if you listen closely enough. Then came the bag, a Soho House bag, ordinary to most people.
Harry and Meghan personified. They are so woke that if they turned around and slapped themselves, the woke person would slap back.
A thunderclap to him. Once Harry saw that Soho House bag, something inside him snapped awake in a way he couldn't undo. It was like the photograph had whispered, "Go deeper." And he did. He opened a new tab, not as a prince, not as a husband, but as a man who suddenly suspected he was the last to know the truth. With shaky fingers, he typed the 3 names that were about to drag him into a darker, far less glamorous version of reality. Soho House, Marcus Anderson, Meghan Markle. The results didn't just load, they lunged. Page after page, archive after archive, stories that had been quietly buried, resurfaced like bones after a storm. The moment the search results loaded,
Concerning on how Meghan relies so heavily on Marcus Anderson. And it does make me wonder what on earth Harry thinks of all this. Is he quite happy that this relationship has been instilled in Meghan and Marcus?
Harry felt a cold rush down his spine, the kind you get when you realize you've walked into a story that existed long before you arrived. Page after page painted Marcus not as the friendly social butterfly Meghan had described, but as a man who curated power like a personal art collection. He wasn't a participant in the elite scene, he was its architect. Harry scrolled and scrolled. Old blogs, forgotten interviews, faces smiling beside each other in rooms dripping with influence. Harry scrolled through old photos hidden in forgotten blogs, archived interviews, and articles that were clearly meant to be buried. Every source told the same story. Marcus was the man who made connections happen. He paired up the ambitious with the influential, the beautiful with the wealthy, and the rising stars with the established titans. Meghan had always brushed him off as just an old friend, but it was becoming obvious to Harry that Marcus was more like the man pulling strings from behind a velvet curtain. The thought clawed at him. What if Marcus wasn't just a friend? What if he was a guide, a handler? The word arrived uninvited and refused to leave. He leaned back, rubbing his face, replaying every interaction. The VIP seats, the wedding privileges, the way Marcus always seemed to be there, always smiling, always watching. The math was what broke him. What shook Harry most wasn't gossip, it wasn't whispers, it was numbers, flights, hotels, memberships, glam squads, a lifestyle that didn't align with a mid-tier actress's income. Then came the admission that turned his stomach. Someone had sponsored her. Someone had guaranteed she stayed inside the rarefied spaces Marcus controlled. Someone had ensured that wherever the wealthy and powerful gathered, Meghan was already there. His pen hovered over a notepad, numbers circling into a conclusion he didn't want to accept. This wasn't luck. This was investment. When he finally looked at the wedding guest list again, truly looked, his chest tightened. Over 60 of Meghan's 200 guests were tied directly to Soho House. Members, executives, donors, influencers, the very people Marcus groomed into his elite circuits. The smiles in the photos changed meaning. They weren't proud. They were satisfied. Marcus raising a champagne glass with 4 Soho House leaders, looking like generals celebrating a completed mission. Harry felt sick. He wasn't the groom, he was the prize. Then came the voicemails. Then the ones he never listened to. William's voice was steady, gentle, and heartbreakingly worried. The warnings weren't jealousy, they were fear. Harry didn't explode. He collapsed inward, quietly, slowly, the worst kind of breaking. He didn't storm into rooms demanding explanations. His breaking point arrived in silence. He replayed interviews, rewatched smiles, heard scripts where he once heard love. Had Meghan ever looked at him with genuine affection, or had she been performing? At night, the questions kept him awake. Was he a partner, or was he a stepping stone? And that truth, once seen, couldn't be unseen. Harry wasn't the miracle in Meghan's story. He was the mission. He wasn't the love of her life. He was the final destination her network spent years preparing her for. And now he lives beside a truth he can never unlearn. He lies awake now in a silence that feels heavier than any argument ever could. The kind of silence that presses on the chest, that makes breathing feel deliberate instead of automatic. Sleep doesn't come easily anymore. When it does, it fractures into pieces, sharp and unforgiving. Every dream leads him back to the same place. Moments he once treasured, now replayed with new meaning. He stares at the ceiling, replaying her laugh, her pauses, the way she listened so intently when he spoke about his fears, his anger toward the press, his longing to escape the suffocating weight of royalty. Back then, he believed it was empathy. Now he wonders if it was reconnaissance. Did she learn him, or did she study him? He remembers the early days, how quickly she seemed to understand him, how she mirrored his values, his frustrations, his wounds. He had told himself it was fate. Soulmates always feel familiar, don't they? But familiarity can be manufactured, comfort can be rehearsed, and the more he revisits those moments, the more they feel curated. Every coincidence starts to feel suspect. Every accidental meeting now looks planned. Every introduction feels staged. He recalls how effortlessly she navigated rooms full of aristocrats, philanthropists, and power brokers. At the time, he admired her confidence. He was proud of her. Now he sees it differently. That wasn't confidence. That was fluency, the kind that comes from long exposure, not sudden immersion. He thinks about the blind date, the way it was framed as casual, spontaneous, almost whimsical, a setup between friends, but nothing about it was casual. Not the timing, not the people involved, not the precision with which their worlds aligned afterward. He realizes now that his life didn't collide with hers. It was open to her, and the most haunting part isn't anger, it's grief. Grief for the version of himself who believed so completely. Grief for the story he defended so fiercely. Even when his own blood tried to warn him, he pushed them away. He accused them of cruelty, of jealousy, of control. He chose her every time, and now he understands why it was so easy for her to become his entire world. Isolation made the picture clearer, and isolation was part of the process. He replays the voicemails again. William's voice doesn't sound angry, it sounds afraid. Afraid of what Harry couldn't yet see. Afraid of losing his brother to something that didn't love him the way he deserved. That realization cuts deeper than any headline ever could. Harry doesn't confront her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because how do you confront something when you're no longer sure what's real? How do you accuse someone when the evidence is stitched into years of shared memories? He watches her now, not suspiciously, sadly. He notices the precision in her words, the careful framing of emotions, the way every narrative bends toward her survival, her elevation, her control. And then comes the most brutal question of all. Not whether she planned it, not whether others helped her, but whether she ever loved him without purpose. Whether there was a moment, even a fleeting one, where he wasn't a role to be played, a destination to reach, a prize to secure. The uncertainty is torture. He realizes something else too. He wasn't naive because he was stupid. He was naive because he was desperate. Desperate to be chosen for who he was, not what he represented. Desperate to believe that someone could see past the title and love the man underneath. That vulnerability wasn't exploited by chance, it was recognized. Now, when the world looks at them, he wonders who they really see. A love story, a rebellion, a modern fairy tale, or the final act of a strategy that began long before he ever met her. Harry moves through his days carefully now, like someone walking across thin ice, aware that one wrong step could shatter everything. He carries the truth quietly because once spoken, it would change everything. Not just his marriage, but his understanding of his own life. He understands now that some truths don't arrive to free you. They arrive to stay, to live beside you, to whisper to you in the dark. And no matter how much he wishes he could go back, before the photos, before the bag, before the search, he knows he can't, because once you see the pattern, you can never unsee it. And Harry has seen it all.